Hello, Internet. Welcome back to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, joined as always by Jose Fuentes.
Hi, everybody. I'm cold.
Ron Fortier.
Howdy, y'all.
And Brent Larson.
I am also cold. I'm wearing long sleeves. You know,
he's got his long underwear on tonight.
You're probably a little colder on the coast, huh?
It's like 44, but like it's supposed like last night I think it dropped down to like 35-ish or so. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a little heater under my desk on my feetsies, keep my tushy warm. And
I was telling Tim and Jose before we went on. In Colorado today, we went up to 66. It was crazy, absolutely nuts. All right, that's the one thing about living in a high elevation state. We're that close to the sun all year long.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even when we get snow, it melts like within 24 hours. It's crazy, you know.
60-something degrees in the winter, and they're out in shorts and swimming. You know you are, Ron. Don't lie.
I swear there are people in this town that don't own a pair of pants. Okay, in shorts and flip flops all year long. I'm like,
in Indiana, we had lake effect snow, and it was always cold, right? Like during the winter, it was like Christmas was whatever, but like January, February, and part of March, it was wet and cold, and I swear I ran around the entire time in shorts and a hoodie.
Yeah. Well, that's
actually, Ron, your high elevated state. Are you referring to all of the medical cannabis that's just like
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
State of mind. Yeah.
Yeah. The tagline for the state, right? There you go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, the joy of being an Oregonian who's also a Florida man is that I'm used to wearing a hoodie and sweatpants in like 100-degree weather, as well as wearing shorts and flip flops in 30-degree weather. So take both extremes.
Right.
Hey Tim, before you get going, you got a couple announcements.
Okay.
All right. One being, talking about Florida. Excuse me, wet my whistle here. As of next week, the first 2.5 weeks of March, that's where I'm going to be. I am going to be on vacation. Hot diggity dog. Val and I are leaving next Monday, the 18th, the 2nd to the 18th, we will be gone. So just so you know, hey, we're out there and hopefully, looking for some sunshine. The end of that vacation is going to be a 5-day cruise in the Caribbean islands. So, yeah, we're looking forward to this thing big time. Okay. So you guys will have to get along without my old age wisdom for a couple of weeks.
Right. And I will not be here next weekend because I will be visiting.
Anyways. But the second thing I just wanted to mention, and we can segue into the week's theme if you'd like after, but look what's out.
Oh, yes.
What?
Number 2.
Yeah. That was easily one of the most successful Kickstarters I've ever been a part of. Yes. And fulfillment started last week. Everybody's gotten their copies, and I got my comps a few days ago, and I'm really, really excited about it. So it's out there, folks. Anybody wants a copy, give me a holler.
Absolutely. And we will be talking about all of that because running the Kickstarter isn't just creating the page and putting fancy graphics on it. It's all the strategy beforehand and all the logistics come afterwards. Because no one wants to buy something and not have it show up.
Oh,
yes.
I've known some Kickstarters that are still ongoing and almost 2 years old now.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's unfortunately it is. The independent comic space is almost rife with it, where creators will launch a Kickstarter with all the best intentions, or in the worst cases, not grab their orders, and then either they don't pay their artists and they kind of abscond with the money, or things happen. They didn't have the management acumen to run a creative team successfully to actually get the product done in time, and then they don't know how to handle distribution. Any number of there are a lot of different things along the way that you can run into a hiccup that if you're not ready to problem solve, which a lot of creatives, and if you're independent comic creator, you're probably more creative minded than business minded, and if you're just starting out, so
right,
prepared to handle those.
It's involved, and if you do not know what you're doing, it can easily become a quick quagmire. And the example that I was just talking about, the story behind that was two very, and I'm definitely not mentioning names, was two very, very popular fan applauded, top professional creators, writer and artist. And these guys got together a couple of years ago. They got on social media and said, hey, we're going to put out our own comic. And, they got a page up and they started splashing what the comic was going to be all about and how many pages, et cetera, et cetera. And off they go, right? And they start getting, funding and support from people. And I mean, they're so well loved. It didn't take them long to make their goal and above. All right, so they meet the goal, and okay, hang in there. We'll get it to you, but we've got other jobs and other paying gigs we got to take care of. Well, 2 or 3 months go by, and they show a few more pages on the site. But I wish I could do more, but I got another big job from DC, or I got another big job from Marvel, and now 6 months has gone by.
Mm-hmm.
And you're lucky if they've got 7 or 8 pages of their great comic book finished. 2 years later, and everybody who chipped in is still waiting for that comic book. Come on, guys. I mean, really? Okay. If it's not going to get done, it's not going to get done. All right. Pull the plug and let it go. But if you're going to self-publish, and if you're going to use a crowdfunding platform, then really have a schedule in mind, a plot, a plan that, hey, this is when this book is going to be done. This is when people will get it, who supported it, and go from there. And if you're doing a series, maybe it's a great idea not to launch the first one until you've got maybe half or 3/3 of the second one ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And not make your fans and supporters have to wait.
Yeah. And that's something that we've been very proud of at Silverline, is the fact that we don't really push anything out unless it is like complete package. There have been times where like it's not fully complete, but realistically it's just waiting on like the last few panels of letters, which we'll take Mike Belcher like half of a cup of coffee to knock out if he really feels like it. So
for sure. For sure.
Mike is a magical, legendary being. I'm just saying, he's not human.
No, he it's every time that I've worked with him, and because he's done a few of my books, and then I know that it goes to him for letters. I'm like, okay, so that's gonna be done in like 2 days. Work
ethics and talent combined. If every letterer was as good as Mike Belcher, this industry would be a hell of a lot better off. Believe me.
Absolutely, yeah. But not just to glaze Mike. But that is something that we're proud of, is the fact that when we're pushing a book out, we know that the second it finishes its campaign, we can then let Tommy know to run the print and send him his money, and they'll be in the mail shortly thereafter.
We pay Tommy in money? I thought he got as a payment.
I think we're gonna pay Barry, but I think Tommy just gets Del Taco.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, again, what you're saying, Tim, and right now we're just talking about the whole concept of planning and scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, I mean, I'll tie this in with the first thing I talked about, and that's Roll and I were talking about issue number 5 of Beyond the Stars, and we were kind of hoping to have it, launch this month, but that didn't happen because other things, happened first. There were, projects and other things that nobody had counted on that reared their ugly head. And, Roland just pushes stuff back. He's not going to release anything. He's not going to put anything out until it's finished and it's ready to go. So that goes along, and I'm looking at the calendar. And just last week, he and I chatted via email to the fact that most likely the book will be complete like 2 days before I leave for Florida. And that being the case, we both totally agreed to keep it out of the public. Let's not launch this thing. Ron's going to be gone for 2.5 weeks. I definitely want to be around to promote it. All right. And we'll get into that aspect of what, crowdfunding and Kickstarter are all about. But I do want to be a big part of promoting it and getting, Andrea involved and Mike involved and whatever. So wisely, none of us had any problem with that. Roland just said, basically, we'll just pull it. We'll continue to finish it. By the time you get home from vacation, this thing should be ready to go. And now he's looking at, where his production schedule runs and what was due afterwards to see if he's got a project that he can actually actively launch with confidence that he can get finished and out by the time the funding schedule program is finished and is complete and off to all our supporters.
Yeah,
absolutely. Roland is. I had hoped to get Roland on for this one, but I believe he is.
It's midterm week.
Midterm meeting, yeah. So he's being a little busy, but yeah, because like you said, Ron, he's been doing this game for a while. So not only does he have sort of the experience and the strategic mindset, but also it's just the ethics and personality when you're handling the Kickstarter, right? Because that's comic creators know when they're being taken advantage, or comic fans know when they're being taken advantage of when they're being sold a false bag of goods. Between either big publishers or small publishers doing so many false starts, or again, not to name names, but you have certain creators that were kind of industry darlings that had a big name and then made their online presence about pissing people off, and then didn't pay their artists, and then continue to just yell at more people, and so they lost their support group. And like, well, what are you? You're just being angry. You're not giving anyone any products. So how are you going to handle that? All right, but to get into the chronological order of it all, probably the most important part of a Kickstarter or running a crowdfunding or any sort of independent funding happens before the funding campaign even begins, really. And Ron probably does the best job of this when just in terms of I think we do a mix. We each cover our own things especially well, but that is the marketing in the current digital age. Ron, of course, you have the fight log, the
weekly blog,
which
keeps my fan base abreast of what I'm doing from week to week. And when I have projects that are being assembled for any kind of funding, eventual launch, week to week, I'll just post updates of what's coming. I show a lot of preliminary artwork that gets my fans really excited about a project. I rap, endlessly about what the plots are, what the idea is, and give people an idea of where it's going to be, how it's going to be funded, and the various platforms they're on. You're right. I think any creator today who wants to market himself and his career and what he does should have a regular website that he or she updates on at least a weekly basis. All right.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are times when, you've seen, you and Jose have seen it for a while now, for the last couple of months. There are times when I have something like, 6 or 7 different agendas on one entry. Other times, 1 or 2, nothing. All right, nothing's happening. Things are stagnant. All right, and then that's the case of when I get a little creative and try to still keep interest on the page, on the blog, by talking about other aspects of my career and things I've done and things that are out there connected to it. But the idea is, I think I've kept actively, maybe last time, my son runs the server, and I believe I have something like 300 active followers every week who follow, the blog. And man, I tell you, when it comes time to launch an actual project, those 300 are pretty much my foundation for kicking off a launching, program. All right. And I really, I'm so grateful to have every one of them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, even
I'm signed up for it. I know, because Ron calls me a loyal airman, and it makes me feel like just bubbles. I'm telling you. Loyal airman.
There you go.
Yeah,
you got it. You got it, Jose.
That's what we'll have to do. We'll collaborate on our Silverline crew steampunk comic, where we're all character inserts in a airship steampunk crew.
There you go.
Yeah. Those he got ideas.
Down.
All right. But yeah. The even John Holland, our guest last week, talked about with Diebold. He does everything through a similar weekly newsletter, and that especially for a lot of writers, the weekly newsletter is a tried and true method of keeping people engaged with your content, even if they don't necessarily like read it all the time. If there's a subject line that catches their eye, if there's an image attached, just having something there. It's the same methodology behind the brochure. You don't necessarily need someone to read the full brochure. You just want to have your name on their kitchen table. Other avenues that we pursue, of course, are video podcasts. We have our Silverline shows that are weekly, and we have a couple throughout the week and different creators on them. And then when we're promoting stuff, we'll also appear on other shows. I try to hit as many as possible. We'll have other guests on here as well. Cross-proliferate, cross-pollinate. But for a lot of the modern consuming public, video and audio is really the solid choice, because that's how a lot of content is being consumed nowadays. And it kind of gives you a place also where you can perhaps be a little more personality driven, not necessarily just brass tacks. And so if someone is interested in personality follows, which happens a lot of times, people will follow creators for not even necessarily engaging with their work so much as they will for engaging with them as a person or personality online. And then purchase is a purchase.
I mean, definitely. Okay. Video interviews. All right. I mean, definitely when you get to the point where you're going to start launching any kind of new project on a funding program, you do want to do as many podcasts as you can do. And this harkens back to some of the discussions we've had here, especially with Jose in the past, about the personality bit, about basically becoming a personality via those kind of guest appearances. And it's one thing you have to put yourself out. You have to put yourself out there so that people can get to know who you are, know what you're all about. All right. And I mean, nobody sells a comic better than the creators.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. All right. I mean, publishers, editors, all well and good, but it's the creator, the writer and artist who put their heart and soul in this thing. And so these are the people you want to interview, and they're absolutely silly not to take advantage. I mean, there's literally hundreds of podcasts out there now, especially devoted to comics today. Years ago, many years ago, one of the first podcasts I was ever involved with was a thing called Comic Related, and it posted once a week out of Illinois, I believe. And there were 4 of us on the show as co-hosts, pretty much like what we do here. And so what happened was I ran into at a con a good friend of mine who just happened to be an Eisner-winning comic book creator. Okay, so in talking with this person, I basically said, hey, I'm a part of this comic book podcast. Any chance you'd like to be a guest one of these weeks. We'd love to have you on and talk about your career and whatever. So he says yes reluctantly, which should have been my first flag, and off he goes, and end of discussion. I get home, get a hold of my co-host. They're excited. We set up the schedule. I call him. The night comes, and he gets on the show and basically sat there like a statue. Whenever any of the other hosts asked him a question, we got a one-word answer. And it was really clear that he was uncomfortable in that venue. He just didn't act socially. The guy's a great guy. I mean, he's a good friend, but I hadn't realized that just wasn't his thing or his forte. And so after about, I mean, the show is an hour long, and after about 15, 20 minutes of realizing just how uncomfortable he was, we politely said, well, thanks for being on the show. Glad to have you here. And, you know, let him go, cut him loose, okay? But honestly, if you're a creator and you don't have the wherewithal to put yourself out there, then you are really, really giving yourself your own handicap.
Yeah.
All right. You have to sell your comic. No other way around it.
No. And that's awesome that you can do. If you're someone who is perhaps a bit introverted or not as gregarious as us here.
What are you talking
about? One option that as a classic from the old late night talk show days, but you probably aren't. None of us really prepare writers anymore, but if you were to do a similar event, just have a quick message. Ask the host if you can do it pre-recorded. Let them edit it down to like 30 minutes. Just get yourself out there somehow. But yeah, another thing which is incredibly well, it's become a little more staticky now. There's a lot of noise out there, but social media as well. There is a lot on social media. However, if you are also on it yourself, whether that be Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, or if you're an artist, make the absolute use of things like Instagram, even YouTube Shorts. Jose is on Whatnot. Things like that. I mean, the amount of engagement you can get on doing just a sped up sketch of a character you're working on and throwing it up on a YouTube short can go a long way towards building that audience, getting people interested in your style. And for writers, it's a little bit harder because oftentimes our contribution to society is more philosophical rather than visual. And you don't necessarily want to be, the thing that gets the most engagement now is politics, and you don't necessarily want to be one of those people that is a raging butthole. So maybe find reviews of something else that you engage with and can find a lot of enjoyment in, something you can be a positive influence in the space in. If you're someone who is charitable, maybe have a social media presence dedicated to promoting what you're passionate about. Or smart siloing. That's something I talk about where we have comic creators who are not the best at siloing their content. So when they are political and raging online, drafts and everything else like that, I have a siloed political podcast that does not, the two shall never meet, but the people who like me there will find me here. The people who like me here can find me there, but they don't marry.
Never the two shall merge.
Never the two shall merge. And even then, that is mostly about tech policy. So it's very nerdy. If you want to learn about like regulations regarding like RAM and computer chips, that's kind of it.
I mean, and those kind of things aren't impossible to do. I sometimes find certain creators that we're talking about who get a little frustrated, and it's like, well, how can you do that? How can you operate in such a divided society as ours today, as far as politics are concerned, or whatever? And my answer to that is always the same. I run what I call a successful small, publishing house, Airship 27, with a gentleman who I love dearly. He's my best friend in the world, and he and I are totally on opposite sides of the political spectrum. All right, we are night and day. All right. There is no middle ground between the two of us. But you know what? When we do the podcast, when we produce books, when we do the business, everything else, none of that matters. Right. It's not what we're doing. It's not what it's about. All right. What he does on his own, who he campaigns for, who he gets on a soapbox for, is his business. And I respect him to have his own ideas and philosophies. He does the same for me. So the idea is you're here about comics.
Yeah.
All right. You want to talk, you want to, expound, philosophies, talk about the philosophies of storytelling. You want to talk about politics, talk about the politics of teaming with artists and writers. How do you merge? There's so many things that we all have in common, and they have to be the most important thing that we put our focus and energy on. It's like you said, Tim, the other stuff goes in the other box, in the other podcasts, and whatever. And if like-minded people want to join you there, go for it. Mm-hmm. But that shouldn't happen here.
Absolutely. I mean, Jose and I have talked about this before, but we have we have some different opinions on things, but we both love Transformers and X-Men and all that other stuff. The important things in life.
Oh, don't talk to me about Deadpool. Deadpool sucks. Okay. I'll get all kinds of emails now. Look out.
I have an entirely different varying opinion about that, because where the character has evolved, I feel it's the same place where he was when he started. So
okay.
I need to read the new series because it's written by fellow Oregonian Ben Piercy, who you could draw a line across Oregon that goes Gail Simone, me, Molly Harker, Ben Piercy.
Nice.
if I remember Molly Holly Rising, we've had on the show before. She's also now in the same
That's awesome.
code. So but yeah, that actually gives an idea of evolving long-running series, evolving characters. That will also be a good topic to put in. We'll put a pin in that for a later show, but talk about things like Deadpool, as well as things like the Green Hornet, the Warrior Nun, things like that. Yeah. Okay, so all this stuff, and kind of to the point we got to at the end there, where you can have different things, whatever, but it's about finding that common ground. If you are having political speeches there, the whole point of your social media presence ahead of time is to find that common ground with your audience that makes them want to buy into your book, whether that's they like the visual styles, they like the subject matter, they like you as people.
Yeah, well, I mean, you definitely want the largest audience you can get your product. That's no doubt, whatsoever. All right. And I mean, we're talking about promotion and marketing here, but I think, we should get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of, okay, so you've got an artist, you've got a team, you've written a script, that's pretty much 70, 80, 90% almost done. And you're getting ready to launch, and you're going to eventually sit down and pick a platform. But I think one of the most crucial things that you have to come to grasp it with, and again, what you alluded to earlier at the start of the show, Tim, is that idea of a lot of creators aren't money orientated and economically, you need to be, okay? Mm-hmm. You basically need to have some idea of what your baseline is going to be, how many minimum issues you want to print, who is going to print them. These are all things you should know before you launch. Who is going to print them? What are they going to charge for those books? How much is going to be left over for you and the writer, artist, whatever, okay? So that now you're setting a goal. And believe me, okay, I mean, I've got a degree in business administration. Sell price is one of the most crucial things you can do in any kind of an economic market, all right?
Yeah.
Set your goal too low, and you might burn yourself, all right? Not get enough of what you need. Set it too high, and you won't attract enough buyers, and it still won't get done.
Scare people
so
away.
It's really important to understand, okay, so what's the purpose of the goal? I think personally myself, the minimum amount should be let's break even and not lose any money. Mm-hmm. Let's make enough money to print X number of copies of books and mail them out to the people who support them.
Yeah.
Now, some people get greedy out there. I see enough Kickstarters, and doggone well, they're asking for the moon, and I'm like, go for it if that's what you think you can make. But beyond successfully printing your book and getting it out to your fans, I'm okay with making a profit. I've got nothing wrong with that, but make it a realistic profit, because you're going to want them to come back and buy another issue or another comic that you do or another product. All right. If you start bleeding your fans with exorbitant goal sets, all right, trust me, there are enough different comics out there on Kickstarter and GoFund and everything else of every price range. All right. Be honest with what you set for your goal.
Mm-hmm. And kind of getting to that point of things to consider, we mentioned the cost per print. So when you're looking at, you can go into Kablam's website, go onto any other, print style, and then also research the printer going with. Do they print in the style that you want your book printed? And most of them will be, there's some things that's like commoditized, right? Most things will do 22-page acid-free paper, CMYK, but do you want any additional add-ons? Do you want it to be something else, something different? When you're looking at that, then you have to look at your order minimum and the pricing bill, because they'll give you breakpoints for how many costs per copy is for that breakpoint. And like you're saying, Ron, like how many things are you going to need to sell in this Kickstarter? Also consider, are you going to want to have stock after that from that initial order? Because if you bulk order, you're going to get more there. Do you want to have stock for your digital storefront for shows? We probably should, unless you're completely doing stuff by print-on-demand dropship, which means you're going to be asking your fans to pay a higher price later on. And then get into the calculus of, all right, I'm ordering 500 here. 200 is going to be from a Kickstarter, so this is the cost for the Kickstarter. 100 goes to shows, so then when I table, I need to do the calculus of how much I need to make out a show with the cost of tabling and the cost of these prints.
Yep, totally.
And then 200 goes to online plus whatever your storefront fees are. And then looking at the platform that will best suit that. If you're wanting to save cost on the online storefront, you might go with something like Indiegogo, because once your book funds, it is on there as a print-on-demand storefront. So you're saving costs onto yourself. Fans may have to pay a little bit more, but if that's what needs to kickstart your career, you can always pivot on your next series or next volume. We use Fund My Comic because it has the lowest shop fee for us to run our pre-orders through. Because our goal is keeping our prices as low possible, essentially, but still be able to have funds to grease the gears and keep our artists eating ramen.
The best ramen, the cheapest stuff.
Yeah. I just got a new thing from Bulldog called Spicy. It's like sweet spicy. It's supposed to be like
not sweet.
Yeah.
There's no sweet to
it. Right, but or if you already have, you have the fans from your mail list or from a career that you're pivoting from, Kickstarter is going to get you the best visibility if you can get early momentum, because their Kickstarter is algorithmic. So if you get so much engagement in the first 24 hours, it'll push you to the front page and keep you there. So be honest with your funding goals, like you're saying, Ron, but also be honest with how you're going to have to manage this and what the strategy best lines for you. Because just because your friends and everyone else does a Kickstarter doesn't mean you, and just because the show is called the Kickstarter, doesn't mean the Kickstarter makes the most sense for you. Maybe you and your buddy just came out of college or out of high school. You have like 50 cents to your name, so you really need that to move money from that funding. So maybe you should go to Fund My Comics so you can get as much money to go to the printers as possible.
Right. It's never a sure thing. All right. And again, give some thought to it. I mean, just I brought up Crimson Nun issue number 2, and I think it's a good example here from what we're talking about. Last year, when issue 1 was finished, okay, so we're doing this for Antarctic Press, all right, the artist Jesse Thomas and myself, Mike Belcher, writing, doing the lettering, and Ben Dunn's the head honcho there. So we assemble the first issue. We put it all together and we send it to Ben. So it's the first time Ben sees it all assembled, gets to read it, cover to cover. And then I get this email, all right? Now this is a character that he created almost, I don't know, 35 years ago, and had only ever appeared in one miniseries. 4-issue miniseries, which even he at that time hadn't written. He had recruited another writer and art team to do it, but it was the only time she ever had her own series. So Ben writes me quite honestly and says, all right, so this is relatively new, Ron. He goes, what were you thinking of a goal? All right, and man, that caught me a little flat-footed because, I mean, he's the publisher. He's the guy who's really going to set up the Kickstarter and whatever. And I got to thinking, and I lowballed it for him. Only because, I mean, sincerely, it was a new project. I mean, yeah, I know I've got some fans, but again, I didn't want to get way out on a limb and have him produce something that didn't sell. All right, which is going to be a really black eye to get, you know, a series going. And I was being super conservative with the total I gave him. Okay. He gets back to me, he goes, okay, that's what we'll do. And up goes the Kickstarter. He ends up doing an alternate cover himself, God bless him. And I don't know, within a month and a half, we met the goal. And we went over a little bit or whatever. And Ben goes and gets it printed, published. We meet all the you know, fulfillment things and whatever. Everybody gets their comp copies. I get tons of comp copies to sell at cons. Everybody's happy. The artist, you know, Mike Belcher and whatever. Now we're producing issue number 2. We wrap up number 2, and again send it off to Ben. Okay, he's the guy. And this time, I don't know if Ben was playing off as the success of the first issue or not, but he's like, okay, I've got it, hang in there, I'll have the Kickstarter up in another week or so. Now he notifies me the Kickstarter's up. I go and check out the page, and he had lowered the goal on issue 2, all right, by $300. And I'm like scratching my head going, okay, all right, well, all right. I mean, I lowballed it the first time. He's actually lowballing it. And I'm thinking to myself, no, he's a publisher. He's been in the business for 40 some odd years, all right? I think he's got a sense of what this is about, or at least this project. Guys, he made the goal in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, And within the days of the Kickstarter, a lot of him, by the end of it, he had made 3 times his initial goal on issue 2. And that's why I said it's like easily one of the most successful Kickstarters I've ever been involved with. And basically, it was a case of Ben having faith in the project, especially after the experience of seeing what happened with issue number 1, and was willing to take a shot at lowering the goal prices, what I talked about earlier. Sometimes it's all important where you set that goal bar, okay? And he did it wisely. He did it smart. And people just jumped on because I think you know this, Tim, and you, Jose, as well, and you, Brant. Nothing appeals more to people than winners. Mm-hmm. And when people see a Kickstarter be successful within 24 hours, I mean, if they were even giving the slightest thought or curious about what this book was about, all of a sudden it's a case of, well, all these other people like it. I mean, you know, they went out and bought it in 24 hours. I think I'll give it a shot. And I think that's what kept the thing steamrolling. Okay, issue 2's out. It's going to be fun to see what happens by the time we wrap up issue number 3 and where we go with this. Again, it's a case of you learn every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I can kind of skip around on some of the topics here, and I'll jump up bullet point. But the next thing that exactly leads into is the idea of And this is a business idea, but like as you said, if you're publishing a comic, you have stepped into the role of being a business person, and that is this concept of trust signals, which are indicators that cause your consumer base to build trust or have a sense of trust for the product before even necessarily engaging with it. And one of those is past performance. From credit scores to insurance rates to hiring, we have built an entire society around past performance as an indicator for future performance. And so if you have that history of, Crimson 1 did this, Crimson 2 did this, now with Crimson 3, you can put on the tagline on there, like issue 2 funded in less than 24 hours, and that is going to be a big headline, good tagline. That's not the only trust signal that you can plan around, but past performance is a good one. So even if you are a new creator, if you have somehow helped out or tagged along with a previous project, you can add that to your resume, add that to your portfolio, right? Another item that you can look into when we've kind of pulled behind the curtain for the setting your budgets, setting your printing plan. When you go into promoting a new book, if you already thought that through, if you already have that plan, you can put that as public information on your Kickstarter. So after you have your synopsis, your tagline, your things, you say like, after this funds, we're going to go pay this printer this much money, get this many issues, they'll be shipped on this date, and get a solid plan in place there that when people look at it, they're like, oh, okay, they've thought this through. They're not going to be like those people that have taken my $5, $10, $15 and never given me a book for it because they didn't even know how to talk to a printer.
I'm going to buy this much pudding.
Yeah. So, and of course, there's other things to that you'll find other ways to build.
Well, just researching printers, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, we're in an age now where there's so many across the country that are looking for small press, all right, to feed their rollers, their printing rollers, all right. And I think it's important to see what each printer offers. Okay, go to their websites, maybe even ask for a prototype of something they've printed before to see the print quality of what they've done. What I found recently, and I thought was most advantageous, is we were dealing with the new Brother Bones series, myself and artist Joe Arnold. And so Joe started looking around at different printers, and he found some printer in Detroit that was going to give him a real per unit, price that was really attractive, all right, which, we can make with making the goal and give us a decent profit and maybe, print an extra, couple hundred books if we wanted to, whatever. But at the same time, that's all this printer did, okay, for that price. And those, whatever amount we ended up with would be boxed and shipped to Joe. And then he would be stuck with having to buy manila envelopes or whatever to send out fulfillments and spend who knows how long sitting around doing that. When in fact, prior to his making any kind of a deal, we found out, hallelujah, that Kablam, all right, which deals with Silverline, has that fulfillment offer in their printing. So yeah, I mean, once we looked at that, Joe realized, man, that's taken such a headache off of us. Our concern now, more than anything else, is simply sell the book, meet the goal, and then off to Kablam and print them. And guess what? They're now sending out copies of Brother Bones #1. We don't have to do it. Hallelujah. That is one heck of a great service. So again, if you're a first-time publisher, i.e. of your own comic book, check out various printers. Don't just go with the first one who gives you a lowball price per unit. See what they offer and what they can give you for your operations.
Yeah.
But you're missing out on the licking of stamps experience.
And of course,
Oh,
that is
that's
also,
so much fun, Jose. Totally. Yeah, right.
and then you can also look at other options you include in there as well. Because a lot of people might want that day one fulfillment, so something like including a packaged PDF, like with Crimson Nun, or $5 for the PDF. That's the same cost as buying it off of Amazon for your Kindle, essentially.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Or if you want to have it on a storefront like that, if you're trying to get discoverability, you could look at after your funding, having your planning there when you're print planning to get that trust signal. Say like after this goes live. Backers will get a renewal code in their email for Amazon Self-Publish or Global Comics. So if they're already in those ecosystems and those storefronts, they get their digital comic right there. It's in the format that they want. There's a bunch of different ways you can go about that, and a bunch of ways of research what makes the most sense for you, your team, and your audience. As much as I'm sure so many people have clicked on this and will click on this thinking this is here's the one-stop shop, the one true way to run a good Kickstarter. The answer is there's many ways to run a good one. You have to research it.
Totally.
Yep. I'm going to combine a couple different topics here into a last bullet point because we're running up on time here. And so the next idea, which again, diving into people who work in business, the idea of the unique selling point, or the USP. There are so many comics on the internet at all times right now that it's very possible that you could put out something that someone else already has, that it was a copy of a Vertigo comic from 20 years ago. So understanding and that's not to say change your comic, you've already made it, like you've made it because you're passionate about it, but find the unique selling point in that. That could be your perspective as a creator. Do you as the writer or your artist have something about your upbringing or your method or the way that you created it, or the way that you approach this topic that is unique, or that's something that you think people will be able to resonate with? Do you have cool little tchotchkes or bonus features added on as rewards? You don't want to bloat it, of course. You want the focus to be on the book, but maybe like with friends of the show, Scott Wakefield and Rory Boyle, who are both Navy coastmen or Coast Guardsmen. Yeah. For Steam Patriots, they made unit patches for the boiler division from the book that you could. So when you got a certain tier, you'd get your standard issue stitch on unit patch.
I have my boiler team patch.
Yeah. It could be tchotchke, it could be something you make. If you have a 3D printer at home, you can kind of go to town and just print off a bunch of like bonus feature add-ons to add to your thing if you have the graphic design for it. Or is your thing just so weird and out there that it's a unique idea or a unique perspective that you just really need to double down on the marketing and find ways to package it all around a single sellable tagline? A book that we pitched on here years ago with McKinsey, a story about skateboarding mushrooms high on drugs have to save the skate park. Right? It has its audience, and gosh darn it, do they like it?
All right, there you go.
But it's that weird tagline. They're like, this is absurd. We need to double down on how absurd it is. But if finding that USP for your story, and it could be that you just have a historied career, because at this point, you could probably slap Ron Fortier's name onto something, and there's going to be people that'll buy it because it's from Ron Fortier.
That's my plan. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Ron might not even be working on it, but I'm
one of the things I found out, I'll just throw this in because, again, for the writers listening to this show, all right, all too often, most funding programs rewards are artistic. Okay, you can buy pages, you can buy a sketch, you can buy multiple different covers, et cetera, and when we first launched Beyond the Stars through Silverline, I'm watching, everything that the guys were doing art-wise to help promote and make the campaign successful. So that after about 2 or 3 weeks, I said, "Oh, what the heck? I want to get in on this." And so basically, I put it out there. We had a package. The price levels changed, and if you wanted to, contribute more to a higher level of the campaign, you got these premiums and rewards. And so I jumped in and said, for a certain dollar fee, and we did this for two people only, 2 fans, 2 supporters, first come served, is that I would put them in a future issue of the series. This was issue 1. It was a 6-issue miniseries. So if you were willing to spend X number of dollars to help support and launch Beyond the Stars, into existence and whatever, I would get a photo from you. I would get some idea of your personality and character, and you would become a character in a future issue. And that worked. A young lady and a young man, and they appeared in cameos in actual speaking parts in issue number 4, Beyond the Stars.
I know which one they are.
And they can show that to their friends and relatives. Say, "Hey, I was in a comic book, a science fiction comic book, no less." So again, there's a lot of ways you can get creative.
Yep.
Yes.
I told Roland, and I've done it before. I'm all for like you said, it's it is like crowdfunding is very, very much art driven. You know what I mean? There's quite a lot of people that not only want to put in on a book, but they want to put in on a book and get something out of it. And I want some original art from it, right? So I think every page that I've penciled for Obsoletes, for Obsoletes 3, I put all of them. Like I give them Roland today, put them all up.
No.
You know what I mean? Any cover that I've done for Silverline, for a book for Silverline, that's like Roland always asks me, "Is this something you want to put up on a crowd?" I was like, just at this point, just assume yes. I am willing to give up original art to, you know what I mean? Because who doesn't want to keep their original art that they've worked on? You know what I mean? That's a thing. But for the love of the project, for the love of the work that you're doing, you know what I mean? I'm all for donating and sacrificing those pages and those original art and cover, and like even doing sketches, as reward tier and whatnot. Like, dude, I'll do it all. Like that's how, for whatever project I'm working on, put me in for like all in, feet first in the deep end.
Yeah, that's something we talk about, right? Is that art is what gets people to buy comic stories, that gets them to stay. So by default, comic fans are art enjoyers as well as fans of good stories. So like having original art that they can put up or they can collect can go a long way. If you're a writer, you do have to get creative and get kind of weird with it. For one that I did a while ago, there was one of my historicals. What I ended up doing for the stretch goal was, if we got to that point, included in the order would be a 2 or 3 page sourced and cited almost essay on the vehicles mentioned in this story and the historical importance, replacements, and whatnot. So stuff that I put into like research the story in the first place, and then I was like, okay, but here's the history of it that you can use to inform your enjoyment of this book.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
kind of find weird little things you can add on to kind of the joke to make that if you're a writer at a convention, you need to be writing haikus for people to come by.
Or offering to let the writer body slam somebody into a table if they buy all the books on the table.
Yes. That'll be the stretch goal for Dracula #1 is
Right?
I will body slam Jose.
Down. I'm down.
Okay. So hopefully you all listening either live here tonight and join the conversation, or in listening on podcast channels and services around the world have kind of gathered that the best way to run a successful Kickstarter is to research, and plan.
And market and promote.
Yes.
Really.
I love promoting the crowdfunds that I work on, right? And obviously all of them are Silverline, but man, I will tell you, was it Cat and Mouse Vipers? When we promoted Cat and Mouse Vipers, I was on, and I hate getting on social media. Like, I'll make a post every now and again. Sometimes I'll show some art. Like, gosh, I don't know what to say, right? But man, I was hopping on. I was like, oh, like, check this out, and taking screenshots of our campaign, like, you know, where it is at, you know, in the next morning from the night before, and like where we're at, like this. Thank you so much for everybody. Like, just by the time the campaign was done, like, and I'm sitting there the whole time. I'm like, even up to the last minute, I'm posting like, oh man, thanks guys. Like, this is how far we are. Thank you so much. Like, oh my gosh, right? Oh, yeah. By the time the campaign finished, I'm like, whew, I need a nap. It's a lot. Like, you put a lot of your, ideally, you should put a lot of yourself. If it's a campaign that you're a part of, a campaign that you've worked on, you shouldn't just let whoever, like, even if you're just a freelance artist for it, you shouldn't just let, you know, the person who's doing it, you know, campaign the book. Your people want to see the stuff that you worked on as well. They want to know what you worked on. Like, they want to know what, you know, what you're pushing, what, you know, what the passion project that you've been working on, you know, even if somebody else is doing the writing and stuff like that, and you're doing the artwork, people want to know. Your people want to know. Your family wants to know. Your parents want to know. They want to be proud of you about something.
You know, hey, let's hope you can, you know, if you really love the media, and I know the four of us do for sure, it's a case of feeding that passion by continuously working, you know, working on new projects, using the technology that's come along to make things possible for us to self-publish, to work with small independents and whatever. But man, I got to tell you guys, all right? I mean, I started off, you know, we were talking about my blog earlier, and because I'd gotten my copies of Crimson Nun 2 last week, just prior to writing the blog, I started that whole blog off with just, you know, like a recommitment to the fact that when I took that comic book out of the envelope box and held it in my hands, I was 13 years old again. I love comics, all right? And here was a comic that I had written. I actually sat down and read it cover to cover and was almost giddy with pleasure and joy. All right? I mean, that's why we do this, all right? And if you can maintain that purity of love for the media, then why shouldn't you want to go out and promote the devil out of it, all right? Just tell people this is something special. This is something that will entertain you. This is something that will give you a great deal of pleasure, all right? And trust me, in the world that we have today, which is so dim, dour, and gray, comic books liven up everything, all right? They are a source of fun and joy. So support them, and if you're lucky enough, make them.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think that's a great ending point. So, like I said, next week we'll be down some people.
Yep.
But let me get our topic pulled up there because I just got these.
I'm gonna come hang out with Tim.
What?
So I'm gonna come hang out with you.
Yeah.
Next week.
I mean, we'll have Jose join from up front here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Jose's at my lap for the. All right. Next week is the reality of deadlines in comics and how pros survive them. So, yeah,
Hear me
Huh. So it'll be what, the two of us?
I think it'll be Brent and myself. Yeah.
Oh man, talking about
hold on before, guys.
Yes, talking about deadlines.
I'll be suffering on that cruise.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. No, we wish you the best, Ron.
Hold my pie in my hand, you know.
Try not to worry about us too much, Ron. Try not to, you know.
I'll do my best. It's gonna be
Try not
tough.
to feel guilty.
Yes. That'll be our show next week. Make sure to check out Wednesday Wham and Silver Sunday on their respective times, and we will see you next week. But until then,
Make
mine
Silverline.
Hey, this is Paul Pelletier. Make mine Silverline. Is that okay, Roland?